The frontier outpost floated quietly at the edge of known space, a lonely station between stars. It was a place of trade, travel, and sometimes trouble. Ships came and went every day, bringing food, supplies, and strange goods from faraway systems. Humans lived there with dozens of alien species, all trying to survive together on the border of the galaxy. Elias Wren was not a soldier or a leader. He was a technician, a man who fixed broken machines and made sure the outpost kept running. His job was not glorious, but it was important. Without people like him, doors would not open, lights would not shine, and ships would not dock. He was quiet, careful, and often ignored by those around him. But on this day, things changed. Elias stood at the docking bay as a tall alien trader entered. The trader's long coat brushed against the floor and his eyes glowed faintly yellow. His voice was smooth, almost too smooth, as he spoke to Elias. "You are the human in charge of maintenance, yes?" the trader asked, his tone polite but sharp. Elias nodded. "I take care of systems, yes. Do you need repairs?" The trader smiled in a way that made Elias uneasy. "No repairs. I bring an offer. Something valuable for someone who dares to take it." From the corner of the bay, Elias felt a stare. He turned slightly and saw her. A Vayrith warrior, a Beastwoman. She was taller than any human nearby, her shoulders broad and her hair tied back like a wild mane. Her eyes, golden and fierce, were locked on him. She glared at him with such intensity that Elias almost stepped back. But she said nothing. The trader opened a small metal case. Inside was a strange device. It hummed softly, glowing with blue light. Elias had never seen anything like it before. "This," the trader whispered, "is technology forbidden in the core worlds. But here on the edge, no one will ask questions. You take this, you sell it later, and you become rich." Elias frowned. "What does it do?" The trader leaned closer. "It bends energy. Shields, weapons, power sources. Whatever you imagine, this can change it. A tool of war, a tool of profit. I give it cheap to you, human. You look like a man who needs a chance." Elias felt his heart race. The offer sounded tempting, but it also sounded wrong. His instincts told him this was dangerous. Humans were still new to this part of the galaxy. Taking part in illegal trade could destroy the fragile trust they had built with other species. "I'm just a technician," Elias said slowly. "I don't deal with things like this. You should speak to the station council." The trader's smile vanished. His eyes narrowed. "The council? They are fools. You refuse me?" Elias stood straighter, though his hands trembled slightly. "Yes, I refuse. I don't want trouble here." A long silence followed. The trader closed the case sharply, his expression cold. "You will regret this, human," he hissed. "No one refuses me without paying a price." He turned and walked away, his coat sweeping behind him. Elias exhaled, not realizing he had been holding his breath. But before he could relax, he noticed movement again. The Beastwoman had stepped closer. Her eyes still burned with that piercing glare. "Foolish human," she said, her voice deep and rough like stone. "Do you even understand what you refused?" Elias blinked at her. I just knew it was bad." She crossed her arms, towering over him. "Bad? That trader deals in death. His kind sells weapons to enemies, poisons to friends, chains to the desperate. You turned him away with nothing but instinct. Strange, either you are brave or stupid." Her glare did not soften. Elias felt like prey caught under the gaze of a predator. But there was something else in her tone. Something that almost sounded like interest. "I'm not brave," Elias admitted honestly. "I just don't want to see people here get hurt." The Beastwoman studied him for a long moment. Then she made a low sound, half a growl, half a laugh. "Strange human. Most would grab power if offered. But you deny it. I will watch you." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Elias standing alone and confused. Later that day, Elias returned to his work in the station's engine room. He tried to focus on repairing a broken conduit, but his thoughts kept returning to the trader and the Beastwoman. Why had she been watching him so closely, and why did her glare feel like more than simple anger? As he worked, the alarm suddenly blared. "Intruder warning. Sabotage in progress." Elias grabbed a tool and ran toward the noise. In the storage bay, he saw 3 strange figures, likely allies of the trader, planting small explosive charges on fuel containers. His blood ran cold. If those charges went off, the station would be destroyed. "Hey!" Elias shouted before he could stop himself. The saboteurs turned, their faces hidden under masks. One raised a weapon. Elias ducked behind a crate, heart pounding. He was no fighter, but if he did nothing, everyone would die. Suddenly, a roar shook the bay. The Beastwoman leapt into the fight, her claws flashing and her massive frame moving with speed that defied her size. She struck one saboteur, sending him flying into the wall. Another tried to fire, but she tore the weapon from his hands and crushed it like paper. The third saboteur ran straight toward the fuel charges. Elias panicked. He grabbed a loose cable and threw it across the floor. Sparks flew and the saboteur tripped, falling face first. Elias rushed forward, using his tool to disable the explosive device just in time. When the fight ended, 2 saboteurs lay unconscious, and the third fled into the dark corridors. The Beastwoman stood tall, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Her golden eyes locked onto Elias once again. "You acted without fear," she said. Elias shook his head quickly. "No, I was afraid, but I had to try." Her glare softened just slightly, though it was still sharp. "Fear yet action. That is rare. You are not like other humans I have seen." Elias gave a weak smile. "I guess I just fix things, even when the thing broken is dangerous." For a long moment, the Beastwoman said nothing. Then she stepped closer, towering over him again. Her presence was overwhelming, but not threatening. She spoke in a low voice. "My name is Koresh of the Varith. Remember it, human. You may need it soon, for the traitor will not forget what you did today." Elias nodded slowly. He knew she was right. Trouble was coming. And somehow he felt that Koresh, the Beastwoman who glared at him like no other, would be part of his fate. That night, Elias lay awake in his quarters, staring at the ceiling. The station felt different now. He had refused a dangerous offer, fought against saboteurs, and gained the attention of a powerful alien warrior. For the first time, he felt like his life was more than just fixing machines. But he also felt a weight pressing down on him. The traitor's warning echoed in his mind. "You will regret this, human." And in his memory, Koresh's fierce golden eyes burned brightly. Her glare had not been one of hatred, it had been something else, something deeper. He did not yet understand it, but he would, because this was only the beginning. The next morning, the station was alive with whispers. News of the sabotage had spread quickly. Everyone knew about the traitor's men trying to blow up the fuel bay, and everyone also knew that Elias, the quiet human technician, had played a part in stopping it. Some people praised him for his quick action. Others muttered that he had drawn dangerous attention. Elias did not like the sudden stares. He had always been part of the background, fixing doors, repairing pipes, checking systems. Now people looked at him differently, some with respect, some with suspicion. He just wanted to go back to his tools, but he could not. Because someone else was watching him, Koresh. The Beastwoman's golden eyes found him no matter where he went. Whether he was eating in the mess hall or carrying spare parts through the corridors, he felt her gaze like a weight on his back. She did not speak often, but when she did, her voice carried authority like the sound of thunder, and always she glared. That afternoon, Elias was repairing a power junction near the main docking ring when Koresh approached. Her heavy steps echoed and people moved out of her way. She stopped only a few feet from him, arms crossed, towering over him as she always did. "You work again after last night?" she asked. Elias glanced up nervously. "Well, the station doesn't fix itself." Her eyes narrowed. "Strange. A human who nearly dies fighting saboteurs yet returns to his machines as if nothing happened." Elias shrugged. "If I don't, things break. And if things break, people get hurt. It's just what I do." Koresh tilted her head slightly, her glare sharp but curious. "Your courage is not like my people's courage. You do not seek battle. You do not boast. Yet when danger came, you acted without hesitation." Elias gave a weak smile. "Honestly, I was terrified. I thought my heart was going to stop." Koresh's lips curved in the faintest hint of a grin, though her eyes still burned. "Fear is natural. What matters is what you did despite it." For a moment, Elias did not know what to say. Then he asked the question that had been bothering him since last night. "Why do you keep staring at me? Ever since the traitor came, you've been..." "Watching." Koresh stepped closer. Her shadow fell over him and Elias felt small under her presence. "Because you are different. Most humans I have seen here are timid. They hide behind words, behind rules. You did not. You stood against a traitor whose kind is feared across sectors. And you survived. I wish to see what kind of human you truly are." Elias felt his cheeks warm. "I'm really not special. I just fix things." Koresh's glare sharpened, but not in anger. "Perhaps. But sometimes the ones who just fix things hold more power than they know." Before Elias could reply, the station's alarm rang again. This time it was not sabotage. It was a fight in the market ring. Traders and locals were clashing and the smell of danger filled the air. Koresh drew a long curved blade from her side. "Stay close, human," she growled. This may be worse than last night. The market ring was chaos. Shouting, broken stalls, overturned crates. A group of the traders' allies had returned, starting fights with anyone who had done business with humans. Elias ducked behind cover as Koresh charged into the fray, her strength unmatched. But Elias was not completely useless. He spotted one of the thugs planting another explosive charge near the fuel lines that ran under the market. His blood went cold. He grabbed a small tool from his belt and sprinted toward it. The thug saw him and laughed. "The little human thinks he can stop us?" Elias forced himself forward. "Not if I stop you first." The thug swung a heavy metal bar and Elias barely dodged, the strike grazing his arm. Pain burned, but he kept moving. He jabbed the tool into the device, overloading it with a short burst of current. Sparks flew and the charge shut down. The thug roared, but before he could strike again, Koresh was there. She slammed the thug into the wall with a single blow. Then she turned her glare on Elias. "You could have been killed," she growled. "I know," Elias panted. "But if that charge went off, everyone here could have been killed." Koresh's eyes burned into his. "You think like a warrior, but you are not trained like one. You will not survive long this way." Elias gave a weak grin. "Then I guess I'll just have to learn fast." For the first time, Koresh's glare softened, just a little. She made a sound deep in her chest, almost like approval. After the fight, the station guards arrived and dragged away the surviving thugs. The market ring was damaged but safe. People whispered as they watched Koresh and Elias standing side by side. A human and a Varith warrior together. It was not something they expected to see. Later, Koresh led Elias to a quiet corner of the station. Her voice was low, serious. "You must understand, human. The traitor will not stop."
He lost face when you refused him.
"Now he seeks revenge. That is why his men return again and again. He will not rest until you are broken or gone." Elias swallowed hard. "So what do I do?" "I can't fight him. I'm not a soldier." Koresh's glare was steady, unblinking. "You cannot fight him alone. But you are not alone. My people know his kind. We have fought them before. We despise their tricks, their poison words. If you let me, I will guard you." Elias stared at her. "Guard me? Why? I'm just a human technician. Why would a Varith warrior care what happens to me?" Koresh leaned closer, her golden eyes burning like fire. "Because you are not like the others. You refuse corruption. You face danger even with fear. In my people's way, that is worthy of respect." Her words made Elias's heart pound. He felt both honored and uneasy. To be respected by a Varith was no small thing. Their culture valued strength, courage, and loyalty above all. "I don't want to bring you trouble," Elias said quietly. Koresh's glare sharpened again, but now it carried something fierce, almost protective. "You already have. But it is too late to turn back. You crossed the traitor and now you are marked. Whether you like it or not, you will need me." Elias exhaled slowly. "Then, I guess I'll accept your help." Koresh nodded once, firm and final. "Good. Stay close to me, human. For if you fall, it will not be by his hand, it will be because you chose recklessness over wisdom." Elias almost smiled. "I'll try to remember that." Her golden eyes glared at him one last time before she turned away. But this time he noticed something different in her look. It was still sharp, still fierce, but beneath it, there was a strange glimmer, something like trust. That night the outpost was quiet again, but Elias knew it was only the calm before another storm. He sat in his quarters, turning a small broken circuit over in his hands. His life had changed so quickly. Just days ago he was only a man who fixed machines. Now he was the target of a dangerous traitor, and under the watchful eyes of a Beastwoman who refused to look away. He remembered Koresh's words. "You are not like the others. You refuse corruption. You face danger even with fear." Her glare haunted him, but it also gave him strength. For reasons he could not yet explain, he felt safer knowing she was near, even if her presence was overwhelming. Still, he wondered what it truly meant to have the protection of a Varith. They were not just warriors, they were bound by ancient traditions, and Koresh had hinted that she saw something in him worth guarding. Elias did not yet understand what she wanted from him, but he knew one thing: the traitor would return. And when he did, Elias would not be alone because somewhere in the shadows Koresh would be watching, glare sharp. Eyes unblinking, waiting for the moment she would strike. The outpost tried to return to normal after the fights, but there was no true peace. People whispered about the traitor's revenge. The station guards doubled their patrols, and in every corner rumors grew. Some said the human technician had made a powerful enemy. Others claimed he was protected by the Beastwoman, and that alone made the traitor hesitate. Elias did not like attention. He wanted quiet work, but now he was known across the station. Wherever he walked, people looked at him. Some nodded with respect. Others avoided him in fear of being caught in the traitor's anger. And always Koresh followed. The Beastwoman was like a shadow, but a shadow that glared with golden fire. She stayed near him in the markets, watched while he repaired broken doors, and stood behind him when he ate in the mess hall. No one dared approach Elias when she was near. At first, Elias felt embarrassed. He was a technician, not someone important. Having a warrior like her guarding him felt wrong. But slowly, he began to see things differently. The outpost was dangerous, and Koresh's presence gave him safety. Still, her stare never softened. One evening, Elias sat in the maintenance bay repairing a broken panel. Koresh stood nearby, her arms crossed. The silence was heavy. Finally, Elias looked up at her. "You've been following me for days," he said. "Don't you have your own people to guard?" Koresh's eyes narrowed. "My people are warriors. They need no guard. You are human, small, weak, yet you stand against enemies. That makes you valuable." Elias sighed. "You keep saying that. But I'm not strong like you. I'm just good with tools." Koresh stepped closer, her tall frame casting a shadow over him. "Strength is not only in muscle. When others ran, you stayed. When danger rose, you acted. That is strength." Elias shook his head. "I was scared." Her glare sharpened. "Fear means nothing. Only action matters." Her words sank into him. He realized that in her culture, courage was not about feeling no fear. It was about moving forward despite it. Later that night, Koresh invited Elias to join her in the Varith quarter of the station. He hesitated at first, but curiosity won. Few humans were ever welcome there. The Varith quarter was unlike the rest of the outpost. Their halls were decorated with carved stone and metal, symbols of battles past. Fires burned in large bowls, filling the air with heat and the smell of smoke. Warriors sat together, sharpening weapons, telling stories, their voices deep and rough. When Koresh entered, all eyes turned. She walked proudly, and Elias followed nervously. Whispers spread among the warriors as they saw him. One older Varith stepped forward. His mane of hair was streaked with silver, and scars crossed his arms. "Koresh," he said, his voice like thunder. "Why do you bring a human here?" Koresh's glare was steady. "Because he has earned it." The older warrior studied Elias with piercing eyes. "A human earned? Explain." Koresh told them of the traitor, of the sabotage, of Elias refusing corruption. She spoke of his actions, how he fought despite fear, how he stopped the charges. Her words carried weight, and the warriors listened. When she finished, silence filled the hall. Then the older warrior made a low growl. "Strange. A human with the spirit of a fighter. Perhaps not so weak after all." The others murmured in agreement. Elias felt his face grow hot. He was not used to being praised by warriors. But then Koresh said something that froze him. "He may be worthy of the bite." The hall went silent. Every Varith turned their gaze on Elias. His heart pounded. He had no idea what she meant, but the way they looked at him made it clear. It was serious. After the gathering, Elias pulled Koresh aside. "What did you mean?" "The bite?" Koresh's golden eyes locked onto his. Her glare was sharp, but her voice was calm. "In my people's way, when a warrior sees another as worthy, they mark them with the bite. It is not ownership. It is not command. It is bond. It means I stand with you, fight for you until death. And you, in return, are bound to me. Not as servant. As partner." Elias blinked. "Partner? But I'm not even a fighter." Koresh stepped closer. "You are not. Yet you fight in your own way. My people respect deeds, not words. When you chose to risk your life, that was enough." Elias tried to process her words. A bond, a ritual bite? The idea was overwhelming. "What happens if you bite someone?" Her glare softened just slightly. "It means no one can touch you without facing me. It means my clan accepts you. It means you are no longer just human. You are Varith in spirit." Elias shook his head, overwhelmed. "I don't think I'm ready for something like that." Koresh's eyes narrowed. "Perhaps not. But soon you may have no choice. The traitor grows bolder. When the time comes, you will need my people's protection, and the only way to have it is through the bond." Days passed. The outpost grew tense. The traitor had vanished, but everyone knew he was plotting. Patrols caught strange ships circling nearby. Supplies went missing. Fear spread among the people. Elias kept working, repairing broken systems, trying to act normal. But Koresh's words stayed in his mind. The bond, the bite. Could he really become part of her people's traditions? One evening, there was a festival on the outpost. It was rare, but the council decided it was needed to calm nerves. Lights filled the halls, stalls opened with food and drink, and music echoed through the station. Humans, aliens, and Varith mingled together. Elias walked through the festival with Koresh at his side. The stares continued, but he ignored them. For once, he allowed himself to enjoy the sight of people laughing instead of whispering in fear. He passed a stall selling carved stones, each with symbols of strength, honor, and loyalty. Koresh stopped, picked one up, and handed it to him. "This is the mark of bond," she said. "Two lines crossing. One for you, one for me. Together, stronger than apart." Elias traced the symbol with his finger. "You really mean it, don't you? You want to bond me?" Koresh's glare burned into him. "Yes, but it is not only my choice. You must accept it. The bite cannot be forced." Elias looked around at the festival. Humans laughing, Varith warriors drinking, children of different species running through the crowd. For the first time he realized he was part of something larger than himself. But before he could answer, shouts rang out. A group of armed mercenaries burst into the festival. People screamed, stalls overturned, music stopped. The traitor had returned. Koresh drew her blade instantly. "Stay behind me," she roared. But Elias could not stay behind. One of the mercenaries aimed a weapon at a group of children. Without thinking, Elias grabbed a loose pipe and swung it, knocking the mercenary off balance. The weapon fired harmlessly into the ceiling. Koresh cut down another mercenary, her eyes blazing. She glanced at Elias, her glare sharper than ever, but this time it carried pride. Together they fought. Elias with quick thinking and tools, Koresh with raw power and skill. The mercenaries soon retreated, dragging their wounded. The festival was ruined, but the people were safe. Koresh stood over Elias, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. She looked at him long and hard, then spoke. "You see now? You cannot escape this. You are already one of us in spirit. When the time comes, the bond will be sealed." Elias stared at her, still holding the broken pipe. His hands shook, but his heart beat strong. He realized she was right. He could not run from this anymore. The traitor would not stop. And neither would Koresh. The glare in her eyes was no longer just suspicion. It was something deeper, something that demanded an answer. That night, Elias lay awake again, the carved stone with the bond symbol resting in his hand. He turned it over and over, thinking about Koresh, about her people, about the bite. He was only human. But maybe that was enough, because to Koresh and to the Varith, his actions already meant more than words ever could. And soon, he would have to decide if he was ready to take the next step, ready to accept the bond that could change his life forever. The outpost was no longer calm. After the attack during the festival, people lived with constant fear. Patrols doubled, alarms were tested every hour, and families kept their children close. The traitor's name spread through the station like a shadow. Everyone knew he would come again, and when he did, he would not stop until he destroyed everything. For Elias, life had changed completely. He was no longer the invisible technician who worked in silence. He was now the target of the traitor's fury, and the one who walked under the constant protection of Koresh, the Beastwoman. Everywhere he went, her golden eyes glared at him. To others, her gaze seemed harsh, like fire ready to burn, but to Elias he was beginning to see something else. Beneath the glare was watchfulness, even care, and yet she never said the words directly. She only stayed close, like a wall of strength between him and danger. One morning, Elias worked in the power control room, repairing a damaged relay. Sparks flew as he tightened the wires. Koresh stood near the door, her arms crossed, her blade resting at her side. "You work as if nothing is happening," she said. Elias shrugged. "If I don't, the station shuts down. Power doesn't care about threats or fear." Her glare sharpened. "Strange human. You fix machines even when death circles you. Do you not value your own life?" Elias glanced up at her. "Of course I do. But I can't just hide. If I do nothing, people will suffer. Maybe I'm not a warrior, but this is my way of fighting." Koresh's lips pressed into a thin line. For a moment, her stare softened. "Perhaps you are more warrior than you think." Before Elias could answer, the alarm blared. Warning, docking breach. Hostile forces detected. Koresh's blade was in her hand in an instant. "It begins," she growled. The docking ring shook as the traitor's mercenaries stormed in. Dozens of armored figures poured into the station, their weapons glowing with stolen energy cells. The guards fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. Elias and Koresh rushed into the chaos. Blaster fire lit the air, people screamed, and smoke filled the corridors. Koresh moved like a storm, cutting down enemies with fierce precision. Elias stayed close, using his knowledge of the station to close blast doors, reroute power, and trap groups of enemies behind sealed hatches. At one point, a mercenary cornered Elias, weapon raised. Elias froze, heart pounding, until Koresh slammed into the attacker, throwing him aside with a roar. "Stay close!" she barked, glaring at him with fierce intensity. "I'm trying!" Elias shouted back, grabbing a loose pipe to swing at another enemy who came too near. Together they fought their way through the station, but the traitor was clever. He knew Elias would not stay hidden. He laid a trap. In one corridor, Elias and Koresh were cut off by an explosion. Smoke filled the air, and mercenaries swarmed from both sides. Koresh fought like a beast unleashed, but there were too many. A blade cut across her side, and for the first time Elias saw her stumble. "Koresh," he cried, rushing to her side. Blood stained her armor, and her golden eyes burned with pain, but her glare still held strength. "Do not stop, human. Keep moving." But Elias refused to leave her. His hands shook, but his mind raced. He spotted a panel on the wall, wires exposed from the explosion. With quick fingers he ripped them free, twisted them together, and sent a surge of power down the corridor. Electricity burst from the floor, shocking the mercenaries and forcing them back. Smoke and sparks filled the hall. Elias dragged Koresh behind cover, his heart pounding. "Stay with me," he begged. Her voice was weak but steady. "You risked yourself. For me." Elias gritted his teeth. "Of course I did. You've been protecting me all this time. Did you think I'd just leave you?" For the first time her glare softened completely. Her golden eyes locked onto his, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between them. The mercenaries regrouped, but the station guards finally pushed through, driving them back toward the docks. The battle turned, and the traitors' forces began to retreat. But the damage was done. The outpost was scarred, and many lay wounded. Elias helped Koresh back to the Vayrith quarter. The warriors gathered around, growling in anger at her injury. They looked at Elias with mixed expressions, some doubtful, others surprised that a human had stood by their warrior. Koresh leaned against him, her strength slowly returning. Then in front of her people she made her choice. She turned to Elias, her golden eyes fierce once more. "You faced death beside me. You refused to run. You risked yourself for me, as I have for you. By my people's law, that is enough. You are worthy." Elias blinked in shock. "Worthy of what?" Koresh stepped closer. Her presence was overwhelming, but her voice was steady, almost solemn. "The bond, the bite. I claim you now." Before Elias could speak, she leaned forward and pressed her teeth gently against his shoulder. It was not deep, not meant to harm. It was a mark, a symbol, a ritual older than the outpost itself. The watching warriors roared approval. The hall shook with their voices. For them, it was sacred. Elias stood frozen, his heart racing. He felt the mark on his skin, warm and sharp, but more than that, he felt the weight of what it meant. He was no longer just human. He was bound to Koresh, to her clan, to her people. Koresh stepped back, her golden eyes never leaving his. "Now no one may touch you without facing me. You are part of my people, my partner, my equal." Elias swallowed hard. He had not expected this. He had not asked for it. Yet deep inside he knew he could not reject it, because Koresh had been right all along. He was already fighting beside her, already bound in spirit. The bite only made it true in the eyes of the Vayrith. Later that night, Elias sat alone in his quarters, his shoulder still aching faintly from the bite. He traced the mark with his fingers, trying to understand what had happened. He was just a technician. But now he was something more. Koresh entered quietly, her steps heavy but calm. She stood over him, her eyes still sharp but softer than he had ever seen them. "You are unsettled," she said. Elias looked up at her. "I don't know if I deserve this. Your people's bond. Your mark." Koresh knelt in front of him, her golden eyes burning with certainty. "Deserve? You earned it. Not by words, not by strength, but by deeds. That is what matters." Elias gave a small, tired smile. "And now I'm one of you." Her glare softened into something close to pride. "Yes. And with you, I am stronger." For the first time since they met, Elias felt no fear under her stare. Instead, he felt something new. Trust, and he knew the fight was not over. The traitor would return, and the final battle was still to come. But now he would not face it alone, because he had Koresh at his side. and the bond of the bite bound them together in a way no enemy could break. The outpost lay in uneasy silence after the attack. Repairs had begun, scorch marks still blackened the walls, and families mourned their losses. Yet hope lingered. The mercenaries had been pushed back, and Koresh's clan now stood watch at every corner. Elias carried the bite mark on his shoulder like a hidden flame. At first he had tried to ignore it, but he could not deny what it meant. The Varith warriors treated him differently now. They nodded when he passed, some even bowing slightly. He was no longer invisible. He was claimed part of their people, but peace never lasts when enemies still live. The traitor had not been defeated. He had only retreated, and Elias knew deep in his chest that the man would return. One evening, as Elias tightened circuits in the central core, Koresh entered silently. Her steps echoed heavy on the metal floor. "You are restless," she said. Elias gave a tired laugh. "How could I not be? We both know the traitor isn't finished. He wants me. He wants you. He'll come again." Her golden eyes narrowed, the familiar glare burning. "Then let him come. This time we end it." Elias hesitated, then asked the question that had haunted him since the bite. "Koresh, why me? Why claim me? I'm not a fighter. I'm just—" Her sharp hand clamped on his shoulder. "You stood when others would fall. You faced blades with bare hands. You think yourself weak, yet you do not run. That is why." Elias swallowed, his chest tightening. He wanted to argue, but the weight of her words silenced him. Maybe she saw something in him he could not. The alarms blared again 3 nights later. Warning. Multiple ships approaching. Heavy weapons detected. The station shook as missiles struck the outer shields. Panic rippled through the halls. Families rushed to safe zones. Guards scrambled to defensive positions. And the warriors of Koresh's clan roared as they prepared for battle. At the heart of the chaos, Elias and Koresh stood side by side. "This is it," Elias said quietly. Koresh's teeth bared in a grim smile. "Yes, the final hunt. The traitor arrived in force this time." His flagship docked with the station, and waves of mercenaries stormed the corridors. They carried heavier weapons, their armor glowing with stolen tech. Behind them, the traitor himself appeared, a tall man with cold eyes and a cruel smile. He spoke through the station's loudspeakers, his voice echoing like poison. "Outpost 7 belongs to me. Hand over the human, and I may spare the rest of you." Fear rippled through the station, but Elias stood firm, Koresh beside him. He clenched his fists, heart racing, and whispered, "He wants me alive. That's our chance." Koresh glanced at him, her glare sharp. "Do not dare speak of sacrifice, and I'm not. I'm speaking of a plan." The battle tore through the station like fire. Koresh led her warriors into the front lines, blades flashing, roars echoing. Elias stayed close, using his knowledge of the systems to sabotage the invaders. He overloaded power grids, locked down bulkheads, and flooded sections with gas to force the mercenaries back. But the traitor was no fool. He pushed harder, forcing his way toward the central core, the heart of the station and the place Elias could not let fall. The fighting reached its peak in the long central hall. Mercenaries clashed with Varith warriors, sparks and smoke filling the air. In the middle of it all, the traitor himself advanced, weapon in hand, his cold eyes fixed on Elias. "There you are," the man sneered. "The little technician who thinks he matters. Do you know how much trouble you've caused me?" Elias's legs trembled, but he stood his ground. "If I've caused you trouble, then I've done something right." The traitor laughed, cruel and sharp. You're nothing. Just a tool. You should have hidden. Now you'll watch as I burn your protectors to ash." Koresh stepped forward, her golden eyes blazing. "You will touch no one. Not while I live." The traitor raised his weapon. "Then you will die first." The battle exploded around them. Koresh charged, clashing with the traitor in a storm of sparks and steel. Her blade struck fast and fierce, but the traitor's weapon was strong, fueled by stolen energy cells. Each blow shook the hall. Elias tried to stay back, but he couldn't. He saw Koresh stagger under the force of a strike, her armor cracking. Without thinking, he rushed forward. "Elias, stay back," she roared, but he didn't listen. He dove to a nearby control panel, fingers flying. Sparks flew as he rerouted the power from the station's main core into the hall's lighting grid. The lights above overloaded, bursting in a shower of electricity. Arcs of energy danced across the floor, forcing mercenaries back and stunning the traitor for a heartbeat. Koresh seized the opening. With a roar, she slashed, knocking the traitor's weapon aside, but the man was ruthless. He struck back, hurling Koresh into the wall. She cried out, armor breaking, blood streaking her side. "Koresh!" Elias shouted, rushing to her side. The traitor turned on him, weapon raised. Time to end this. Elias's heart pounded. He had no blade, no training. Only his mind, his hands, and the courage Koresh had awakened in him. He grabbed a broken pipe from the floor, sparks still dancing on its edge, and faced the traitor. His hands shook, but he stood tall. You'll have to go through me. The traitor sneered. Gladly, the man lunged. Time slowed. Elias swung the pipe with all his strength, aiming not at the traitor's body, but at the weapon in his hands. The strike connected. The weapon cracked, sparks bursting. The energy inside overloaded, and the weapon exploded in a flash of light. The traitor screamed, thrown back by the blast. Smoke filled the hall. Koresh struggled to her feet, her golden eyes blazing. With the last of her strength, she charged. Her blade pierced through the traitor's armor, striking true. The man gasped, eyes wide with disbelief. Then he fell, the light in his eyes fading. The hall fell silent. The mercenaries, seeing their leader fall, dropped their weapons and fled. The battle was over. Elias dropped the broken pipe, his chest heaving. Koresh staggered toward him, blood on her armor but fire still in her eyes. You fool, she growled, though her glare was softer than ever. You could have died. Elias managed a weak smile. So could you. But we didn't, not today. She stared at him for a long moment, then placed her clawed hand gently on his shoulder. You are no longer just a technician. You are my partner, my equal, my bond. Elias felt the truth in her words. The bite mark on his shoulder burned faintly, but it was no longer just a mark. It was a promise. Around them, the Vareth warriors roared in victory. The station lived. The people were safe. And for the first time, Elias felt not like an outsider, but like someone who belonged. Weeks later, the outpost was healing. Repairs continued, laughter slowly returned, and life pushed forward. Elias walked the halls no longer invisible. Children waved to him, warriors saluted him, and families thanked him for what he had done. But it was Koresh who stayed closest, always watching, always glaring with those golden eyes that no longer frightened him. One evening, as they stood together overlooking the stars, Elias spoke softly. You know, when I first met you, I thought you hated me, Koresh snorted. Perhaps I did. You were strange, small, weak. But you were also brave in ways I did not expect. Elias smiled. And now? Her glare softened into something almost gentle. Now you are mine, and I am yours. He nodded, feeling the weight of those words settle in his chest. For the first time in his life, he was not just a worker fixing machines. He was part of something greater, a bond, a people, a future. The stars stretched endless before them, but Elias was no longer afraid. Whatever came next, he would face it with Koresh at his side, because together they were stronger. And together, they had proved that even the smallest human could change the fate of many.